One actually common thing I see people not getting traffic is how-to content. Now with AI, when you can click a button and get 1,000 topics and then click another button and have ChatGPT write 1,000 articles, the decision-making is the strategy, the prioritization. That's where companies are going to succeed, the ones that best know how to prioritize. How do you do that? We've been doing that for years with SEO.
Welcome to Search Party, the podcast where every guest brings something to the table. I'm your host, Amanda Milligan, and today I've invited Dan Shure to the party. Dan has been in SEO for nearly 2 decades now and has built a reputation as one of the industry's best thinkers on strategy, content, and search. He is the founder of Evolving SEO and the host of Experts on the Wire, a podcast that is very well loved in the community and has recently been rebooted. So if you have not listened to it, go and check it out. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I truly am so excited that you have your podcast back. What year did you start that? Do you remember?
It was exactly 10 years ago. So 2016. So I relaunched the new intro 10 years exactly to the day.
Wow. That's crazy. How does it feel to be back?
It's good. We were just chatting about how much easier it is to be on Riverside and the technology is so much easier. But a lot of the stuff surrounding that was always all the extra work and the editing and the show notes. And that's what always caused me to sort of like do less episodes or kind of like stop and start.
Yeah.
But now, because of the technology is so much further ahead, I mean, that stuff's so quick and I can just focus on having really good conversations with people.
Yeah, it's a huge plus for sure. I'm really enjoying Riverside. This is not a paid ad. We like Riverside. Okay, Dan, we kick off every episode with 2 truths and a lie to learn a little bit more about you. So what do you got for me?
A couple are music related. Some people might know that I used to be a professional musician. So the first one is early on in my music career, I had the opportunity to actually perform on stage with Ben Folds. And that was like really exciting. Number 2 is that I performed in a bucket band. So I was a drummer in a band.
Oh.
We traveled around the country and performed for like kids and stuff like that and made money doing that. It was like a full-fledged performance with like, pre-recorded music and like backgrounds and like full production. And then the third is, I have been late diagnosed ADHD. So it's like, oh, light bulb moment, right? All these patterns from earlier in my life. So I've always sort of like just done weird random things at the spur of the moment. I bought a diesel Volkswagen and my friend said to me like the day I bought it, hey, you're going to run that on vegetable oil? And I was like, oh, I never heard of that. And then like a week later, I had installed a vegetable oil kit into the car that allowed me to filter and run the car on vegetable oils. And I drove it like that for 2 years.
I feel like the second one is false.
Second one is true.
Which one's false?
First one.
Ben Folds. I was hoping that was. I was like, that's just cool.
It's a twist on a real story that I actually met him in an airport in Philadelphia. And I was so weird and awkward. Like I had been sitting across the aisle from him for like solid 20 minutes. And he was just this random average looking guy reading a magazine, because 20 years ago we didn't have the phones. And he got up, went to somewhere to the bathroom or something. And as he was walking back, one of the employees from the airport was like, hey, great show last night. And I was like,
oh my God.
Wait a second. And so in my mind, the only reason why I went up to him was to confirm that it was him. I had no plan after that.
You're like engage and
just like get information and I don't know what's going to happen. So I walk up to him and I'm like, is your name Ben? And he's like, yeah. And his whole bandmates are standing around staring at me. They're about to get on the plane. And I'm like, do you play piano? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, okay, thanks. Bye. That was it. Just like totally ruined moment right there. Cause I was a professional musician at that moment. So could have been good networking.
Could have made that connection. That's hysterical and so much more relatable though. I am afraid of meeting any of my favorite people. Like I love the Killers. That's my favorite band.
Yeah.
And I've been like, I would love to meet Brandon Flowers. I'm obsessed with him. And yet I would be horrified if I actually did. I would have no idea what to say. I would sound just like every other fan, like, oh, your music is like,
yeah. We all think we know what we're going to do and say, and then it happens and no.
Yeah. No. Sure. What did you bring to the party, Dan?
So it'll be a good party. I brought a new content strategy and topic planning process that I've been using with clients for the new AI LLM world. And, I scan LinkedIn. I try to, I look at Reddit. I try to, it's hard without Twitter these days, really, as being active, but I try to stay a little in touch with what people are saying.
Yeah.
And I've really yet to see what I would stand by as like a really robust strategy for planning content. I see a lot of like, oh, just, you got to do all this stuff for geo. And by the way, I hate that term, but you got to do all this stuff for geo or AEO or AIO or all these tiny little like just misguided tactical things that half the time don't even make any sense. And it's like, what do you like? I saw a recommendation. You need to have your sentence length 15 to 20 words or something. And so not only do I not really see many just like, here's a really robust strategy, I don't even see very good tactics either, which we can get into. But that's what I have. I have a
Yeah.
strategy. Everything we've done for the last, whatever, 20 years in terms of really good content planning for SEO, we're just going to throw it out of the way
No, it's ridiculous.
and just
Yeah.
say, you got to create listicles. Like, how do you know what listicle to create? How are we prioritizing that? How are we going to measure the impact of it? That's
I
what I
love
have.
it. I'm a content person, so I'm very excited to see what you have to say on this topic. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think so. Number one is that ground foundational SEO content planning, which I'll get into. It might be a review for a little bit of people, but I believe that because Google gives us search volume, we've got the most robust data on what topics people want. And I have to believe there's probably a pretty strong parallel between what are people prompting for topics and then what do we just have search volume around. We don't have anything like search volume for ChatGPT or Claude or LLMs. So it's really, what are we just guessing,
Yeah, there's
So
like there's directional, right? Certainly not to the level of keyword volume, like you said, that we have access to.
yeah. And like I've been using Semrush for so long, and it's like so foundational to my content planning is not only grab search volume, and this is all part of the foundational SEO content planning, but run the keyword, pull the top ranked article, put it in Semrush, go to organic, and just another layer of filtering here. Filter for when that article shows in the top 10 to make sure we're not getting misattributed clicks or something. Now you can get a traffic estimate on what that piece of content might return for traffic. So if it's an article about the best beef jerky, right? Google the best beef jerky, pull the top article, put it in Semrush. It'll give you an average. If you want, you could toggle from desktop to mobile and total that together. But now you're going to have actually quantifiable benchmark for how much traffic you might be able to receive. And I do find that Semrush does a pretty good job at calculating click-through rate based upon AI overview showing up and things like that. Because I have noticed click-through rate calculations skewing a bit lower than they had prior
Yeah,
to
that makes sense.
AI overview.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to take that into account. To me, that's the most robust way to plan and prioritize content. Because if you could write about 500 topics, I mean, you still have to prioritize what you're going to do when, because every company needs to be mindful of resources and where they're putting their time, effort, and energy.
That
So
is, to me, like strategy of marketing is prioritization because you're right. Like at any time you can be doing a million things, and the hardest part is deciding what to do first.
that's exactly right. And I think a lot of companies now with AI, because there's so many options, when you can click a button and get 1,000 topics and then
Yep.
click another button and have ChatGPT write 1,000 articles for it, like the decision making is the strategy. Like you said, the prioritization. That's where companies are going to succeed. The ones that best know how to prioritize. How do you do that? We've been doing that for years with SEO, right? And so a couple other layers, like for the foundational content planning, we've got search volume, we've got a traffic potential. I always think it's worth calculating some sort of ranking potential. And this is where everyone's going to know that I'm really honest when I say I use SEMrush all the time, because my honest opinion is I actually don't use any keyword difficulty scores that come from a tool to determine ranking potential. I find it gets you in a decent ballpark. And one thing the Keyword Magic tool does that's nice is you can do a personalized keyword difficulty score, right?
Yeah.
If I want to start with a list of like 1,000 keywords, I might run that and take off everything 80 to 100 difficulty just to like get rid of the stuff that I know is not going to But from there, what I normally do is I Google the keyword. I know it's going to sound so manual and old school, but it's like what works. Everyone wants a tool with a magic button to like calculate a ranking potential or whatever. And I just don't see them as being accurate. So I Google the keyword. I have the keywords everywhere plugin. I look at the domain authorities of what's ranking. I look at the relevance. I look at the quality. And I've been doing that so long, I can come up with a pretty good high, medium, low assessment in like a minute just by scanning and taking a quick look. I mean, the quickest way is know your site's domain authority. If your domain authority is 50, you want to look for all the other sites, or as many of them as possible, being 50 or less that are ranking in Google.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just very basic, competitive gap. Then once we bring all that into a spreadsheet, then we can layer in editorial decision making. So nowadays with LLMs, I definitely want to be mindful of the audience targeting, and we can get into that a little bit. So I might have a column for like audience. I might have a column for funnel position, high, medium, low. One thing I always do, and this is going to relate to the LLM stuff, but I always put a column for content type. And people get confused by this because I know there's different ways people refer to content type. Everything we're talking about is an article. So I'm not talking article, product page, FAQ page. That's not what I'm saying. Content type, what I mean by that is the actual structure of the outline of your article. So a list post, that's a content type. And I segment list posts into thing lists and concept lists. So a thing list is podcasts, conferences, books, stuff like that. A concept list is like best practices, examples, tips, strategies, etc. And we'll get to like why I do that in a moment. But then another type of content might be a versus article. So, ads versus marketing, whatever. The one that is really important is when it's a guide, because what I mean by that is it's going to need a custom outline. So this is what I'm saying by content type. And that's going to, again, tie back into the LLM stuff in a moment. But this is all on the content planning sheet. So we're really prioritizing, like you said. We're looking at competition. We're starting to think about the type of outline it's going to need. Think about the audience targeting. And you can really add anything else you want to editorially. You could add, like, if that article is going to fulfill like an editorial goal or anything at all, right? A category. So from there, it's really a matter of building it out.
Yeah, if it like ties to a product release or whatever other internal priorities you have that will help you prioritize.
So that's foundational SEO planning. Everything I've talked about so far is what we've been doing in SEO, right?
Yep.
And even if you just do that, you're still going to be way closer to like success with LLMs and everything else just by having foundational SEO content planning. Now, let's layer in AI and LLMs.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the new stuff is happening. So the output of your content plan is you're going to have now a list of topics, right?
Yep.
So one thing that I think is important for LLMs is that if you go into your Google Analytics traffic referral data and you look at where you're already getting traffic from ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, you may notice a pattern in content types. And this is why the content types matter. So for example, there's a sales recruiting company that I work with, and I went in and all of their thing lists were getting referrals from ChatGPT. So now I go back to my content planning spreadsheet and I have a column for LLM visibility potential. Everything that's a thing list is high. Now I think about it in the opposite direction. What are they not getting traffic to from ChatGPT? Maybe it's like their best practices list. One actually common thing I see for people not getting traffic is how-to content. And if you think about it, it makes sense. They're getting the how-to in ChatGPT. They don't have to go. But why are they visiting a conference website? Well, that's actually somewhere where you may need to go to the website to start to take action. But again, you've got your content planning sheet. You know your content type. Now for yourself, for your own site using GA4 data, you're going to look at what types of content are getting referrals from ChatGPT. Let me tag that a high, medium, low. Now, if you want to lean into optimizing for LLMs a little bit more, just focus on those, right? So just set a filter for higher, medium likelihood of showing up in an LLM and getting referral clicks. And then that's, as you said, a good way to prioritize that. So now maybe you've taken a list of 100, you filter that, now you've got 50, and you've got a more focused prioritization going that way.
So what would you do with brands that aren't getting traffic from any LLMs yet? How would you
That's very
start
cool.
to see
Yeah,
the
so there's a
potential?
couple other data sources I want to mention.
Okay.
One, people have started talking about this. Now, this hit my radar a little while ago, and then I posted a few things on LinkedIn. I see other people mentioning it. Bot traffic,
Yes.
specifically ChatGPT user. So I think people are finally catching on to this now, but ChatGPT or OpenAI has 3 user agents. One is for their search, like the search engine. The other one is for training data. It's the one that they build their new training data off of. The third user agent, ChatGPT user, only goes to a website when a real person has prompted something that causes ChatGPT to then go
To search
ground.
for that query.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is valuable to know.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of this like we're moving into a world where there's less traffic from humans, but actually the traffic is the bots,
Yep.
the
And
LLM
the
bots.
more agentic we get
Yeah.
when we're not even doing these searches ourselves, then yeah, we certainly need more data on that in between.
Right. So I'm always thinking of this hits from ChatGPT user as like another new type of traffic in a way, or impression. Like if you don't want to be that, because if that bot hit your site, there's no guarantee they pulled you back in and cited you,
True.
right? But they went and looked. Somebody prompted something that caused them to go look, and we want more of that, right? So even if you're not getting cited or getting a click off of that bot hit, a bot hit is indicative of like something happening that they're going to go look at you, you know?
This is like really meta visibility because we talk about brand visibility, like
Yeah.
appearing in LLMs to be visible to everybody else, but now we also want to be visible to the bots.
To the
Like we
bot.
want to have
Yeah.
those associations built so that we at least get seen and
Hmm.
put into the equation of, am I going to use this site, this brand, this page in my answer?
Absolutely. And I promise I didn't come on to the show to pitch Semrush the whole time, but I actually started trying out Semrush's log file analyzer, which was super easy because to test it, I just pulled a month of server logs from my website and just uploaded it into Semrush, and it was super easy. I mean, there's other tools to do this with as well. But it shows you the frequency of hits for every page and the number of hits and then the trend. And you can actually segment by every single user agent. So it's not just for this use case I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Even with that already, I'm spotting ways to get value out of that. Like just looking at, back to your question, if you're not getting referrals from in GA4, how do you know what content types are showing up? Well, that's another place you can look because you're way more likely to get a lot more data around the bot hits from ChatGPT user than you are to get referrals. So you can also go to that to look at what content types is ChatGPT pulling from and looking at. And on mine, I noticed, so I have a list of rank trackers that was like years old, but that was my top hit page from ChatGPT user.
Really?
Yeah. So that's like tools list. So I'm like, okay, that's another thing list right there. And there's a couple of other like possible edge sources to get data from. Glenn Gabe pointed out something recently, which is really interesting. You can go into Google Search Console, go to links, and go to top sources. And then, and if ChatGPT is one of them, you can look at the actual prompt URLs, like the share URLs that Google has as a backlink for you,
Wow.
right?
I did not
And
realize that.
so,
Yeah.
unfortunately, with a lot of sites, like I went through a bunch of profiles and didn't see any data at all. But there's a couple sites that like have a huge amount of traffic that I look at, and there was some data in there, and that's like very fringe, right? Like there were like a handful of prompts in there, and that's a cool way to go in and click and see what it's like. Literally the actual real prompt that somebody used. So that's just kind of a neat way to try to gather a little bit more data as well.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
very cool. I know I got us on a different tangent, but so you have this is the LLM filtering. So you had all the foundational stuff. Now you're going in and assessing like, okay, based on how LLMs are pulling in different data types or different page types, you're doing content type. Is there anything else you're looking for, or what is the next step in terms of like LLM prioritization?
Yeah. So the next thing is that, see, I think what the AI world is going to get, hopefully all of us doing as marketers, is being way more holistic.
Mm,
For
good
years, I've
thing.
wanted clients to
Yeah.
plan blog content and YouTube content and social media content all cohesively, right? So I'm thinking of this doc that I'm talking about being like your grand central like planning hub,
Oh,
home-based
so all the
planning.
different siloed marketing teams
Yeah.
are existing. They have one source of truth.
Yeah. And then like on the very other end of that loop, now it's your source of truth for tracking. So I believe actually that like this is something I'm still sort of playing around with, but I think it makes more sense to take a topic that you've generated and then create a blog post and create a video and do this thing and that thing for it and track the success of that topic across all channels, right? So if
Yeah.
my topic was, best cold calling tips, and we made a blog post, then we made a YouTube video, then we posted on LinkedIn about it. Probably a way to think about that topic as the thing we're tracking, right? If it all came from this central planning source, like that's just something I'm thinking about because I just think, like I said, hopefully the AI world will push us more into being holistic.
Yeah.
But that brings me into, yeah,
I like that idea, and, like, I've thought about this too. It's like if you're creating enough content, I think that's possible because, like, if it's
yes,
not enough, it goes down to, like, well, did we just have, like, bad, you know, was our YouTube intro bad or was our, social image not like, the optimization of it all? But if it
hmm
is, like, a primary topic and presumably you're not just putting one social post and one blog post out about it, then, yeah, I
yeah,
really like the idea of kinda, like, tracking that organizationally and saying
yeah, because it kind of ties in the idea what a lot of people talk about with LLMs, which is like have a consistent message everywhere,
yes,
right? And
exactly.
so if you're tracking your brand visibility and messaging everywhere, okay, if you're a sales recruiting company, cold calling is a topic that you could be tracking what's your share of voice and your, like downstream conversions from a presence around that topic, right?
Yeah.
And this is sort of like I said, like a half-baked, you know, idea, but I think that's one way to start thinking about maybe measurement. But that brings me to video and specifically YouTube and YouTube Shorts. So I don't know where this came from. I've heard some very, people that I trust a lot, some very reputable people talking about how Google will be using YouTube Shorts to power Gemini in training data and sources and stuff like that. So, and I could see that. I mean,
Yeah,
YouTube
I can
is
too.
Google,
Mhm.
and they transcribe every video. So, and I just had somebody on my podcast, the episode will come out next week, Nils Reimers. He invented SentenceBERT. He's like a legend in LLMs and AI, and I'm really excited for that episode. But, we were chatting about training data sources and just how it's a real problem that 2 years ago or 3 years ago, ChatGPT comes out. Now everyone writes content with AI, and now all the AI is training on the AI written content. So
Yeah.
it's like sort of anti-productive. So yeah, I was asking about what other sources of training data, and that's what all large language models like is a big deal for them is trying to find really like trustworthy sources. And YouTube and YouTube Shorts may end up being one of those. So we've always known, obviously, it's valuable to post content in YouTube for the visibility you get in YouTube, number one.
Yep.
So hopefully companies or to whatever ability you had, you were doing that already potentially.
I mean, what is it, like the 3rd or biggest search engine or something like that? Like, it's up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I like the stat people throw on as second
Okay, there
biggest
you
search
go.
engine.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if that's still true or how people are thinking of that, but it's huge. I mean, and not only that, the most views you get in YouTube come from being shown on the homepage and being recommended, you know. So number one, hopefully people have been doing YouTube. But number two, and a lot of people still don't talk about this, YouTube videos and YouTube shorts will rank in Google.
Yes.
And we know through recent studies, Google properties is what's showing up the most in AI overviews as well. So you do the video, then you can rank in Google and get people back to the video. And then obviously, hopefully, this again is me saying I wish companies had been doing this all along. But if you have a video and a blog post, now you cross promote them. So that's a really good advantage. But then the third thing is that YouTube short or YouTube video now helps power Gemini and LLMs. So you have one topic in the planning sheet. Now what I do is I add a column and I say, is there a video showing in Google for this keyword search? And that's like one little way to sort of vet the opportunity to create a video around that.
Do you differentiate between like where the videos, yeah, like where on the results page it's appearing?
Not really. I'm just thinking search intent. I mean, it's got to be some video on the main result page. If I click the videos tab, then obviously,
right, yeah. No, yeah.
But if there's any indication of a video at all in any way, I put a yes.
Okay.
And again, I'm not trying to plug Semrush so much, or Semrush. I don't know if that debate's ever been settled. Although I did look at your website and it's capital S,
yeah, Semrush,
lowercase e. So
yeah,
I'm like, all right, they must want it to be Semrush. So I will run, I believe it's the keyword magic tool or one of the keyword tools, and then you can filter for when there's video showing in Google for that keyword search. That's the only one that I believe in one of the reports you don't get that filter, and I would love to be able to, obviously. But even with that said, you plug in all your keywords. It's either the keyword strategy tool or the keyword magic or one of them, and you can filter by, is there a video here? And then in my content planning sheet, I have a yes or a no. And it's like a very broad way initially, but it's just a ballpark of showing like, yeah, there's possibility for video. And then my hope is that companies, again, will have this sort of ultimate home base of topics, and we can use that to provide to the video team or the social team for video topic ideas, because also why be redundant and have one team over here and the other team over here planning topics? I mean, sure, it's not always going to overlap, right? There's so many video topic concepts that, are just going to live on their own.
Yeah. That'll suit TikTok, but aren't going to suit, YouTube audience. Yeah.
Yeah. But why not make things more efficient and have this sort of ultimate starting point document also help supply video topics? So that's kind of the spreadsheet. And now the output of all of this is you improve efficiency. You're way more strategic about the content you're planning. The SEO topics can feed the video. And then you're also leaning a little bit towards LLM visibility as well. And then the video can rank back in Google. And then you promote the video from the blog post. And it's this whole ecosystem, which to me just makes so much more sense efficiency wise and strategically, and in the new AI world. So it's kind of what I hope, at least companies that I work with. And also I think it just solves for a lot of the confusion and strategy or lack thereof around LLMs. Like I started with saying at the beginning, it's like, why are we overcomplicating it?
And it's really, I feel like I've said so many times in SEO, like there's no quick wins. If there has ever been a quick win, this is it. Where like video, we posted a video on the Semrush channel with Brian Dean, and days later it was in the AI overview for that topic.
Yeah.
That speed,
mm-hmm.
We're in a moment right now where there isn't enough good content like on the video side, especially in certain verticals. Like some are more, diluted than others, but in search, I'm like, there's a lot of opportunity there. So yeah, it's super interesting to think like, how can we pivot into content types that are appearing in search results that, like you said, LLMs are using as sources, definitely videos more and more on that front. But yeah, it makes total sense to me. It's an upgrade of like what you said has been traditionally what we do when we do a content audit. Now we're adding these layers of our new gatekeepers and what they use to as sources and inputs.
Yeah. And I know everything I laid out is going to sound so simple to people. And I feel like humans want to overcomplicate, and they want something that feels more complicated or advanced, or, because everything I see on LinkedIn is like, it just seems like,
yeah, a lot of people have a benefit of making it sound harder than it is so that you hire them and they fix it for you. But it is, it's not that it's easy. It's that difference between simple and easy, right?
Absolutely.
Like you were talking about like literally manually going into SERPs and using your experience to tell very quickly. Like that's the kind of thing that but it
Mm-hmm.
requires a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and
That's
really
right.
strong perspective.
Yep. So I could talk a little bit about actual text on page optimization for LLMs. Mostly optimizing for LLMs is good SEO, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people have to be caught up to speed to that. It's like being topically complete, having good writing clarity, knowing the sentiment of your content. But all this stuff is just, we've all been doing this in SEO since 2017. Everything everyone's talking about now, or a lot of the things they're talking about now, is just what should have been done all along for SEO.
Yeah.
Know the semantic meaning of the words and think about that carefully and structure your headings well and put FAQs and do line breaks. And everything I'm reading is just SEO, except for a couple things that I'm starting to layer on top of that. One is, for years, SEO content has been very like straightforward, factual, not quite like, think about NerdWallet or Healthline or a lot of the, even like some of Backlinko's content. I know Semrush owns a lot of the sites that built themselves on SEO did so by being very straightforward and factual and just delivering clear information. Well, now the LLMs all do that. I think that we've come full circle or half circle to where we need to put opinions and values back into content, right? So if you want to do an article that's like, I'm working with a software company that does warehousing software. So if you want to do like, warehouse safety tips or something like that, you need opinions in there and you need something that can't be replicated from the AI. That's opinions. That's
Yeah.
like a strong like value one way or the other about that topic that you're talking about. And I know that might sound a little bit vague, but like that's what it is. I mean,
We know we've seen, we have kind of talked about something very similar. We've said opinions or like it seems like there's more of a lean towards like an EAT, the experience,
Mhm.
because all an AI could do is pull from everybody else's experience. So if you have your own, like, hey, this is what happened in my career, this is what happened when I did this, or this is what happened, then it'll take it still. But at least you were first, and at least it's you
That's right.
saying it.
A first person story.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like my bucket drumming story, right? No one else could tell that story,
Right.
because I always have to. I'm sorry, I have to be like a contrarian. I was never believing of the eat thing.
Mm-hmm.
I never followed it. Never thought it was actually a thing. I know a lot of people, like really believe in it a lot. Um, so I don't think it's an SEO thing, but maybe it's an LLM thing.
See, I always see it as like a brand thing, like as a
Brand.
as
Yep.
like a content brand SEO, like
Yeah.
that's my Venn diagram. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course you want to be authoritative, and like of course you want to be like to me it was just like like the DNA of what you should be doing anyway. Like to
Yes.
your point about so yeah, I can see like even if it's not like technically an SEO thing or technically a ranking factor or whatever, like that's
Yeah. Well, it's in the quality raters guidelines for a reason.
yeah.
It's not a ranking factor in the algorithm, but Google knows that it's a correlation to what humans are gonna, how they think a good
Yes.
a piece of content is. So I just always have to disclaim that when the eat thing comes up. But the
This is like
other,
in one of the subreddits, I think it's Big SEO, has
yeah.
like a bot that anytime somebody mentions domain authority,
Oh no.
will be like, domain authority is not a ranking factor. It's not a real thing. And I'm like, I
Funny.
mean, yes, but also no, because it's a proxy. It's an important proxy that we
Yeah.
can use. But yeah, there's
It's a quick
nuance
way to
to
know.
everything. And that's what
Right.
anyway.
The other new thing for how to optimize for LLMs, and I actually had this validated a little bit when I interviewed Niels Reimers, who's going to be on my podcast, because I asked him, I said, how would you actually optimize for an LLM that we don't do for SEO? And we went back and forth, and I was trying to get something out of him, and he finally said, use text as similar to what the user might be prompting as possible. Because the LLM is almost way more literal than,
Yes.
just in how it's going to extract and answer. So
Well,
that actually validated what I'm going to talk about, which is this. There's four types of language or signaling that I'm recommending clients add into content. So this doesn't need to be you literally add it in, but you need to communicate this in some way. Number one would be, if you're B2B, the job title of like who you're talking to or who the article's for,
Ah, yeah. Yep.
right? Because how are people prompting? I'm a VP of marketing. Tell me what the best, right? And so that matches to make your content match the prompt. Or if you're in B2C, you got to think persona, right? So like I'm a active outdoorsy, 40 something, like that's sort of demographic
Yeah, and good
stuff.
product pages are including that kind of color in their
Yeah.
descriptions of like, yeah, all the different
Because the
uh,
story I always tell is like my wife is hiking trips with ChatGPT.
mhm.
And all the prompts are like, we want good Italian espresso and we like to hike this amount. And like, I'm like this and I like this amount of activity and I like these activity. Like it's all so personal because you can get to that level of granularity. And so that's what I think about like demographic affinities, that
Yep.
kind of stuff. So that's the first thing. The second one, which is related to the third, which is what would be the immediate outcome that the person prompting wants to achieve and signal or communicate that. Okay. So if it's warehousing software, they want to run a more efficient warehouse. They want to go through digital transformation to be more modern,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So as a segment to that, it's what's the factual outcome, but what would be the emotional outcome as well? Because again, AI is not emotional, but humans, we can think about, well, maybe this person wants to feel like they're more on top of things, or they want to feel less stressed, or they want to feel proud, or they want, and can we communicate or signal that? Because again, to me, that all goes back to like people are using LLMs like therapists.
They are.
Yeah.
Yes. I know multiple
HBR.
people who are doing that.
Yeah. HBR did a really good study where they show the top uses of LLMs, and therapy and companionship is the number one thing. So we know people are prompting with emotion.
Yeah.
So that's the second, the immediate outcome, factual and aspirational. The third is the long-term outcome. So long-term outcome of warehouse software is maybe more revenue, or maybe you can hire more people, or maybe you can expand or acquire a company or go public, or right.
Yeah.
And so these things can be hinted at or signaled or said literally, right? Because everything I'm laying out, I don't think it's practical to like pile all this in the article. And we're not talking about completely changing the way you write. What I'm thinking of is like you have that foundational framework of an SEO article, factual information, and we're just layering this on top of it. So then it's the long-term outcome, factual and emotional. And then the fourth thing is pain points. So we should hopefully be doing this anyways, but it's funny because a lot of the way I've always optimized search content is just, again, give an immediate answer at the top, no fluff, no grandmother's backstory if you're a recipe website, like just get right to the information. But I think there is a case to be made for, like I said, kind of going a little back in the other direction and actually speaking a little bit better to pain points. Because again, that might come up in a prompt.
It's almost like what you're saying is like a more guidelines to the chunking advice of, okay, if you're going to write these full sentences in your copy, because that's a lot of the advice going around. It's like, instead of being like continuing a thought from earlier, like I said earlier or whatever, it's like, no,
Yeah.
this is this. It's like, okay, well, what are you actually trying to put in these paragraphs?
Mm-hmm.
Not just, it's not just enough to be like, oh, it's a complete sentence and it's a complete thought. It's like, well, are you getting to those pieces? Like, you're right. Like, literally just saying the job title. That's
Yep.
a good tangible example of like, oh, because yes, I do type like, I have this and I'm trying to do this. And
Right.
you want that to be very clear. You don't want the LLM it won't spend, more time trying to dissect everything they want. It's like looking for the answers fast.
It's looking for the right result very fast.
Yeah.
And it's very plain English.
One last segment is, if you have time for it,
I do.
our gossip corner,
I
which
love
is usually just me screen sharing something I saw recently and getting a reaction.
Okay.
Which today, now I have the Search Engine Land version because I don't subscribe to The Verge, but my husband does. And he came in today and he was like, did you hear this news about like SEO? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, basically this. And I was like, wait, I thought Google's been changing title tags since, like over
Forever.
a year. Yeah, like, at least it was confirmed, I think, early last year. But then I realized, like, looking at this, again, this is like it's talking about The Verge being like the source here, but
Mhm.
because I'm not a subscriber, I don't think it's gonna show. But this is their headline. Um, and it's their first person reaction of like they're changing our headlines. And I think the fear is that they're changing news article headlines.
This is what there's like there are clues here, right? Go all the way back to the top. See the first bullet point?
Yes.
I would stop reading after that sentence. I'm just like, okay, that's clear. Because you know that language is actually what matters. Is like the
Yeah,
test is
tell
well,
me
it's a
more.
test.
Tell me more.
What's that?
Tell me more about that.
Well, okay. So I want to know, like, anytime I'm going to read an article about SEO or a claim that's being made about SEO, we want to fact check it. Like, is this actually happening? Yeah, I believe it's happening. And then, okay, what's the significance of it? Is this happening, worldwide across global? Is it happening all the time? Is this actually rolled out? Is it a test? And that bullet point saying it's a test. When something's
Yeah.
a test in Google, it is not at all guaranteed to actually roll out. It says it's not approved for broader rollout. So unless that's changed, like my mind's like, it's a test. It's not actually something. And like to your point too, they've been changing title tags forever.
Yeah, I literally, my first reaction was like, yeah, like we've been dealing with that for a long
And
time.
then when you look at the goal, better to match titles to queries and yeah, we've been trying to match titles to queries forever as well. I mean, so it's sort of like, okay, how much is this rolled out? It's not. And then if it were to roll out, how much does that mean we need to change what we're doing if you're doing good SEO?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. Like this is the part where I was like, well, yeah, if the test is sucking, it's like it took a headline that said I used the cheat on everything AI tool and it didn't help me cheat on anything. And then they changed that headline to cheat on everything AI tool. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a good optimization, right?
No.
Like I would also be pissed off if I wrote something and it butchered it, but
Yeah.
like in the macro sense, I'm just like, oh, okay, this is what has always been going on, and it's trying to get to that point with publisher titles.
Mm-hmm.
It's just interesting. I think mostly like, The Verge has a history now of talking about the SEO industry.
Yeah. They did that one like hit piece, right? Like
Yes,
last year or something. Yeah.
yes. And there's always truth in it
Mm-hmm.
without enough of the context and the expertise of like being in the industry, And that's what like I'm getting the same sense from this. I'm like, I understand that frustration and I understand the fear. And at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it's probably gonna be okay. We'll see. Like and if it's not, then let's definitely complain about it and.
It's tough. We're in a ecosystem where, I mean, if you sell clicks, you're going to hyperbolize and
Yeah, publishers and like in their defense, publishers have taken a huge hit, I
yeah.
feel, for publishers.
It is tough, right? Yeah, because and I work with publishers. So that is, it's a reality of publishing.
Yeah.
So what do you do? I don't know.
So yeah, I think it's like quick to fear, like, no, not another thing that's wrecking us.
Yeah.
Like I guess I understand that impulse.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. And I'll put a link to both in the show notes. If you have a Verge subscription, you can read it. That's my caveat. I didn't read the whole thing
Yeah.
because it gated me. That's fine.
Cool.
Dan, thank you so much for joining me today. If somebody wants to hear more from you, obviously your podcast is one way. Is there anywhere else that they can find you?
Yeah. So podcast is Experts in the Wire. We're officially now on YouTube as well. Although when it ingested all the back episodes, there's no video and they all posted with the same date, with a new date. So
Oh,
the titles are pretty clear. They're numbered in sequential order. But yeah, Experts in the Wire is in Spotify, YouTube, Apple. I also made a TikTok as well to share
nice.
short clips there. Probably if you're an SEO, the best place to find me is LinkedIn. Dan Shure, Shure, evolvingseo.com is my small little consulting website. So you can find info about that there. And you can also, if you want to have fun, you can go to my secret little TikTok that I haven't told many people about. I'm evolving Dan in TikTok, and that's kind of the name I'm using for like my personal brand. I've been using that.
Okay.
So you can find me there. That is much more of like all of like what I do and what I'm up to. So reselling on eBay, music, thoughts about business,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Just me trying to get really good at being on camera and talking. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love getting the exclusive on a secret TikTok.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, it's public. I just
Yeah,
haven't, I
right.
literally haven't told anybody really like in the SEO
Haven't
world.
been advertising it, right,
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you again, Dan, and thank you all so much for listening or watching. If you want an invite to the after party, sign up for our newsletter. That's where we drop exclusive behind the scenes tidbits, in this case, Dan diving into more LLM optimization strategies, and where guests answer our spicy question of the month. This month, that question is, what is a popular SEO or AI visibility tactic you think people are overhyping? Dan, I think you actually mentioned a couple of these in this interview.
Mhm.
Until next time, keep learning, keep testing, and keep showing up.